And now we're going to turn to invite questions from the members of the audience. So if you have a question, if you raise your hand, they'll bring the microphone to you. And if you'll give us a concise question and speak really well into the microphone, that'll help. And we're ready to start.
Hello, thank you for doing this today. Not that long ago, when someone died, they were buried where they died. Now we tend to bring the bodies back home. Is there anything in any of the traditions that deals with should the body be brought back home or should it be buried more quickly where the death took place?
Anyone in particular want to take that?
Well, I think Dr. Euban did speak to that, especially in the Taoist understanding. Again, bringing it home that the body is not that person's, but it's a family. In Christianity, I guess basically the fact that it's more of closure, more of inclusion, the family. It is a person did not exist out of nothing. I mean, is born of parents and has a family, or at least has some connections. I don't think there's anything directive on that for Christianity, but other than the fact that we would want to do that for the grieving process, for the mourning process, that there would be an opportunity for family members to experience the loss in a way that will help them provide some closure, as well as to celebrate that person's life. And it's a community event, not just a personal option. I think we'd look at it that way as yes.
I think the pendulum swings on either directions in Hinduism. You can find examples where there are scriptures, the quotes in the scriptures that say that the body needs to be cremated as soon as possible, preferably before the sunset of the day of death. If a person dies, say in the evening, late in the evening, then before the sunrise for the following day, the body needs to be cremated. That's some scriptures say that. But then also there are examples where bodies have been brought back to the family if that was to be done, if that was possible. So I think, again, that speaks to the need of the time and the need of the family that was honored at that time.
You know, I think, I'm sorry. I think it's important to know that where we are. Colder countries, it's a different story. All this hurry up and bury and hurry up and cremate, it's all from hotter countries. In Saudi Arabia, if you die, you know, the body will rot within minutes and hours. So the Muslims hurry up and bury, hurry up and bury. But people don't understand that decomposition of body. So it has to become a sin or something. Now in Muslims, you have to bury them right away because the angels are coming to talk to you right away. And hurry up means you really cover them up very quickly because the angel will come. The bad angel, if you're a bad person, your soul is taken out so hard if you're a good person. Another problem with Islam is the interpretation of the things. Literally, there are traditionalists in Islam, and there are reasonable people in Islam. For instance, they asked Prophet Muhammad, what happens in the grave? So he said, once you are in there, the windows will open. The good people, the pious people look at the heaven, and the not so good like people like me will look at the hell. So this kind of, but that's literally what he wants to say is, you know, happiness. And so people take it as literally there are windows that yes, you're looking out and doing that. So all these things are very, very difficult to interpret in the religious wise, you know, what's happening. So.
Thank you.
So I think in the Chinese tradition, there is another philosopher. His name is Mozi. And he is just against the Confucianism that should take care of the funeral so seriously. So he proposed a kind of very simple and very fast way of dealing with the body. But he proposed that though you are doing in a simple and fast way, you still have to have a kind of very respectful attitude towards the body. Thank you.
I'd just like to start by saying thank you all for coming here and speaking before us today. It's been fascinating getting to know each of your viewpoints on the various religions, and I really appreciate it. My question is more aimed at you, Dr. Mahajan. You spoke that the soul is immortal. It cannot be destroyed nor created, and it continues the cycle of reincarnation into various bodies until it is liberated. Could you speak to how exactly the soul is liberated and where that soul goes after it is?
That's a great question. And thank you for that, because that also allows me to elaborate on something that I forgot to mention. I think the reincarnation concept of the soul and the immortality of the soul are connected in the sense that the soul is the one that needs to be liberated. And it is the deeds that the soul does through that body, throughout the life of that living being, that decide whether that soul is going to be liberated or not. To give you a very rough analogy, it's something like a bank account. How long can you continue to withdraw? As long as you are able to deposit, as long as you have an account. Once your account is bankrupt, you're bankrupt. So every good deed that you do is a deposit. Every bad deed that you do is a withdrawal. And you continue this cycle of withdrawal and deposit until you reach a point where you have accumulated enough, whatever enough deposit is. That's the point of liberation. That's the way it is described in the scriptures.
Okay.
And then so where does the soul go? So the soul at that point becomes one with the God.
Okay. A little bit like when the same question is, really, we all talked about soul and the spirit and dying and all that. Has anybody know what soul is? Nobody knows what soul is. Robert Inger, one of the philosophers, he said, the only evidence, as far as I know, about another life is first, we have no evidence. Secondly, that we are sorry that we don't have. And we wish we had. When I was, one of my questions came as, I heard from this all this heaven and hell, my God, fire and this and this and this, and then heaven you have. One of my good friend, this is on the side, Fingerman, ophthalmology, we went out for dinner, and he looked at me and said, hey, Saeed, are you going to join the ISIS in Iraq? I said, why would I do that? He said, heck, if you die there, you get 72 women. Whoa. I said, Blue, I cannot handle one woman, leave alone 72 in there. So, this goes on. But here's the thing. We always think about soul. So this learned man, when we asked, he said, all this heaven and earth are really true? That you are going to go up in the steps and meet Jesus and meet Moses and eventually you meet God and you live so happily ever after? That's what Islam says, the same thing. So this gentleman was very learned professor of religion. He said, happiness of soul after you die is heaven. Unhappy soul is hell. It appealed to me. But the question is this, what is soul? Does anybody know what soul is? No. We think we know.
May I take a stab at that?
Sure.
I have also wondered about that. And again, being a biologist, I've tried to think about this from a biologist's point of view. going back to the definition that I shared with you earlier, a soul can not be destroyed, it's immortal. All of us have learned in 4th grade science that energy, the definition of energy is that it can neither be created nor destroyed. It simply changes forms. I think that is as close as we can come to defining soul.
Again, that soul, it's a little scientific this in there, but nobody knows really. If anybody knows, that in Britain, nobody has come back and told us whatever he said or I said. Nobody's come back and told us. Now, in England,
How do you know?
in 12th and 13th century, pardon me?
How do you know? Someone might have come back and told you.
In 12th and 13th century, English decided there are about 3,000 people who came back after death and said what it was. Well, after the hard questioning, the number dropped to 700. Then it slowly disappeared. In Eastern culture, from India and all that, there's still some people say, I have come back, and people believe in them. So really, it's a very, very tough question. It's good to be, go to heaven and all that, but you become skeptical. I become a skeptical. The more I read, the more confused I get. One of my granddaughters asked me one day, she said, Grandpa, my mom is Christian. My daughter-in-law is American. And she said, my dad is kind of Muslim because my son didn't believe in anything. So she said, what am I? So I said, Hannah, do you believe in the Creator? Yes. Then help is creation. That's your religion, not more than that. So, these are the things which are such an interesting, emotional, and scientific topic. Which, I don't know when it's going to end and who's going to find out. I'm not coming back. My own wife left me. Ken, I found out there are golf courses in heaven.
Hey, Norma, while we have a moment here, I want to just mention there's 3 resources I'd recommend to all of you that could really help you understand everything that we've talked about today. I thought I brought them along if you want to see them afterwards. One is Spirituality and Patient Care, written by Dr. Harold Koenig, head of Duke University Medical School. Another one is called The Essential Guide to Religious Traditions and Spirituality for Healthcare Providers. Excellent, excellent text. And then lastly, the Handbook for Religion and Health. I would really recommend. This is more of an encyclopedia, but really excellent resources. If you don't have it in your library, come over to Mercy. We'll check it out for you.
Thank you. I recommend a book I'm sure some of you must have read, is Why Bad Things Happen to Good People by Rabbi Kushner. One of the finest books. The new book which has come out, Karen Armstrong is a historian, a religious historian from England. She doesn't pull anything like who's good, who's bad, and all that, just a historian. The new book came out, it's Fields of Blood. It's like the history of the religion when all these things started. Document, all we believe in Adam, we believe in Adam and born, and Eve were born. We believe, there's no proof. So she goes back to 12,000 years, where slowly the concept of God started coming in. It's very interesting. Get that book. I just finished reading it. Fields of Blood. All religions.
This may be more of a cultural question than a religious question, but I'm interested in your thoughts in terms of the differences that you might experience and know about regarding body preparation. My experience in this culture, our culture in the U.S., is that body preparation is given over to professionals. I'm wondering if that's the case in other cultures.
Is body preparation after death? Yeah. Okay. Now, for Muslims, that's very simple. You bathe the body, clean it up, put it in a shroud, and that's end of it. No embalming is allowed. You put in the shroud, put it in the ground. But certain areas, like Cedar Rapids, you cannot put it in the ground for Muslims. You have to have a coffin. In Des Moines, you're allowed to put the body in the ground. So it's very quick and very done. No embalming, no nothing. That's about the Muslim tradition. So, is that done by a professional or is that done by well, not really professional, but there are certain poor people are hired, female or male, depending on the body, to bathe them, but the professional directs him how to start, how to finish the body. Now, in one sect of Muslims, they go inside the rectum and clean up the whole stool and all that because they think that's dirty. They don't realize when you get into the earth what happens. So that's about Muslims.
Yeah, in Hinduism, it's very common to bathe the body, and that's usually done by the family members. Or if the family members are not in a position to do that, it's the neighbors or some people who will do that. Yes.
So actually, I think for Confucian tradition, actually there is no person can be called a professional. So just some elderly or respected people will be just to give directions. But the family, usually it will be the daughter-in-law to prepare, to clean the body and to wear some kind of new clothes. So I think even there are some Buddhist monks or the Taoist priest, so they will also not touch the body. They will just give some instructions. Thank you.
Yes, there's a mic right beside you.
Oh, thank you. I'm a retired pastor and hospice chaplain and nursing home chaplain. And after I retired, Isle's family asked if I would develop an education program for professional caregivers of dying people. And I said I'd try it for 2 years. I've just finished 6. To answer your question, Jeff, insofar as Isle's practices, upstairs in the prep room, there is a special room for the Jewish community where the Jewish community prepares the body, not the professionals. The Muslim community, women prepare the woman's body, men prepare a man's body. Other traditions are very, very much respected by the Isles family, and I know that because I've been working here for 6 years, but I've been working with this community for 30 years. And so I know it's very, very much respected. And I think if you ask any of the funeral directors, not just of Isles, but of other communities or other funeral homes here in Des Moines, you might be pleasantly surprised.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have 2 comments and then 1 question. The first is to Dr. Mahajan. What's the relationship between nitrogen and oxygen in the human body? As a biochemist, I thought maybe you could help us with that.
Please turn off the timer.
The second comment is Dr. Hussein's my father, and my mom called me and said, "Hey, your dad's speaking on death and dying. Well, I don't know what to do with you yet." I thought that's what I was coming here to learn. So that really hasn't worked out the way I really thought this talk was going to be about. So I guess
for your information, he's the one who's in charge of when to pull the plugs.
Yeah,
I'm going to change that now.
Dr. Hurst, it's good to see you again. And my real question is to Dr. Is it Bin? Can you explain more about Chinese beliefs of heaven and hell? Because that's really fascinating to me.
No, I think that he was joking. He was joking about nitrogen and oxygen.
So I just want to say something maybe about the Taoism, about the hell and heaven. So I think Taoism accepted some idea about from Buddhism to say that the people needed to get a retribution. So follow the cycle of retribution. So if you do some bad things, so you go to hell for the punishment, and you can also get some reward from the hell. But I think the amazing part of the Taoism is that the priest can play the role of a kind of a savior. So the priest can wear a mask of a kind of deity. So through some ritual, this priest can go into the hell to bring the souls of the dead people go to bad situation. So sometimes the priest will say that if I am the high priest of this religion, so I have the ability to bring the soul of the dead go to a higher level. If he is in the lower rank of the Taoist priest, so he cannot do much to help the soul in the hell. So I think the really amazing part of the Chinese idea about a funeral is that in this funeral is not a kind of a funeral, it's a part of the whole system of a so-called the ancestral worship. So for the Chinese people, we have a kind of so-called national holiday. So this national holiday is only for the people to go to the tomb of the ancestors to like prepare some new soil to the tomb, or go to the funeral to pay tribute to that, and it's a national holiday for one day. So I think it's a kind of symbol to show that respect to the ancestor. So for the Chinese people, funeral is a kind of religious activity, but it's more a kind of moral teaching, and it's also a kind of civil behavior. So if you do not follow this way to do the funeral, it looks like you are not civilized, you are barbarian, you are the bad people, etc. So that's the reason why the Christianity come into China. The conflict case is starting from the funeral. Because in the 16th and 17th century, some Catholic missionary come into China and to say that your Chinese Christians shall not participate in any funeral service like that, because it is the religious service. But the Chinese Christian argues, well, it is not a religious service. It's a kind of moral service, and it's a kind of civil service. So this kind of debate began to have. So actually, I just prepared something about some tension about the Chinese funeral nowadays, is that with the diversified religious community in China, and with the spread of Christian gospel among the Chinese people, there are also began to some conflicts about should the Chinese way, should the Chinese Christian, in what sense and in what range to follow the traditional Chinese way preparing for the funeral. Thank you.
Norma, I just want to comment one comment this I forgot to mention. For your information, talk about Islam and all that. Once you die, we have 3 stages. One, you are in the grave and you are awakened. You have to get up, because the angel will come and ask you a question. As a Muslim, you must answer that question, otherwise you are in trouble. When the question is asked, you have to say, God is one, no association with him, and Prophet Muhammad is his prophet or servant. That's one. That one stage. Then after that, you're resurrected. Everybody has to be resurrected. And then God made the judgment at that time, your list of things, good, bad, whatever. Then the decision is made. Now, how the decision is made for Muslim is, there are 5 things which are absolutely necessary if you want to be a Muslim. 1, you believe in God. 2nd, 5 times prayers. This is essential, required. You fast for 30 days. And once in your lifetime, you must go to pilgrimage in Mecca. And the 5th, give charity. Now, if you have fulfilled all that, you are okay. If you have not done prayers and all that, then your life begins in heaven if you have done all this. You live forever. And a lot of descriptions of heaven, you know, the milk will be there, honey will be there, you will have comforting partners, and what have you. You live forever. The life never ends in Muslim. Now, if you're a bad person, or whatever sins you have committed, then you're in hell. And you rot there for a long, long time. Then there is a little bit there, if you repent. So really, I was a bad boy and this, or bad girl. Then God may let you come into heaven. So these are the 4 things which are very essential in Islamic belief.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll turn it back to Mary.
Oh, wait, there's
We-
one
I'm sorry?
We're happy to stay as long as people have questions.
way in the
I'm
back.
sorry. I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Eagle eyes.
Eagle eyes.
Yes, I've had an experience of being able to go to a Buddhist funeral, and I have to say that the night before, usually funerals in my experience are solemn occasions, but we went back to the family's house, and there are kaibos, there are tents, there are no less than 7 poker games going on at any one time in the house, along with some other rituals. And so I was hoping that perhaps a little bit more contrast could be put between the Buddhist ceremony, and also can you contrast, Dr. Ben, between the Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism? What are the contrasts? You said that they're more or less the same, but obviously there are some contrasts there. Dr. Majan, could you speak up a little bit louder? We were having trouble hearing you in the back. And could you also comment on sky burial? And for the Muslim faith, could you comment on if there's any role for the genies? You have your humans, you have your angels, you have God, of course, and then in the Muslim tradition, there's the genies, and how do they relate to death? And then if there could be a little more comment on the different Christian traditions, if you could, sir, on the different deaths. Thank you.
There's a lot there. Did you get all that?
If I understood your question correctly, you wanted me to...
About sky burial, which is
Sky burial.
Tibetan Buddhist practice.
May I share that?
But it's a Tibetan Buddhist practice. Sky burial,
Sky burial.
it's a Tibetan Buddhist. You leave the body out for the vultures to get.
Yeah. That's,
Because you can't bury them underground in
I know,
Tibet.
I know, but
I know, he's Hindu, so. And
yeah.
next one was jinn, on the jinn. What was the question exactly?
I would go back to nitrogen, sorry.
The jinn. The role of the jinn with respect to dying.
Role of a jinn with respect to dying.
Rule of a jinn?
Jinn.
Okay. Jinn, God created human beings from earth, from the mud or earth or whatever you know, dust. And God created jinn, G-I-N-N, from fire. That entity is there. We don't see it. Jinn means you can't see. They are there. And quite a few of them are evil. And they try to distract Muslims from doing good and not following God. The jinn, there's a whole creation. It's like close to Satan. They can marry jinns. Sometimes have jinn converted themselves, changed themselves to become human and married human. This all, there's no proof of it, but that's what the whole description come on the jinn, that yes, there's a fire, and they are not good. They're always try to distract Muslims from doing good evil, always on the evil side. One of the interesting things about jinn, people believe in that. Some people said we have seen it. Another scientific this thing is maybe, the people in the hills in Saudi Arabia, they used to live way in the hills, and it used to get cold. They were different people. They used to come down where the fire is, and these people used to be afraid, and they started calling these invisible jinns have come. How do you know they are invisible, and how do you know they are jinn? Again, you believe it or not, their feet are backward because they want to run. So these are all the long story about jinn. They are made from fire, and they are the one who distract Muslims from doing good.
In Christianity, we'd say they would be demonic or fallen angels. They would have similar roles. Again, Christians would believe that God created angels. They neither reproduce, they're neither male nor female, but that they were instruments of God, serving God, and that a third of the angels defected from heaven under the leadership of one of the generals, that we'd say one of the seraphim class angels. There were 4 that we know of, Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and Lucifer. And the jinn in Muslim culture is very akin to the demonic or fallen angels in Christianity. Now, was there a question that you wanted me to ask about or answer about? Could you repeat that? It was kind of...
Oh, of course. With the different branches of Christianity, because you have ministered in between different denominations,
right?
Can you contrast their views on death, their different perspectives, their different divisions, I should say, or ways?
Well, that'd be probably one of the areas that we're all alike. They would all probably embrace the resurrected idea of a body. That's why it would be more preferred to be embalmed. So, I mean, that's how the traditions would be alike, probably how they view death and dying, except for I know the Mormon has a slightly different, but more so, probably the most contrasting would be the Jehovah's Witnesses, which believes when a person dies that they're annihilated or they cease to exist. They would not embrace the immortality of the soul. So otherwise, I mean, there are ways that they're different. All the traditions, really the differences are based on really the 2 major criteria is baptism and Lord's Supper or Eucharist. Those are the things that would be shades of gray maybe, and you'd have your Catholic and Orthodox that would be very much into transubstantiation, the idea that the actual bread and wine turn into the actual body of Christ in a mystical way. And that would be a transubstantiation, transformation of the substance, okay? The Lutherans would be more of a consubstantiation view, would be more of, it's not really, it doesn't transform, but it is the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, or in the, and then, of course, the other traditions from Anglican on would be, Anglican would be similar to consubstantiation, and you'd still have your Reformed, but your Baptist would be more of a memorial type service. Calvin and the Reform would maybe say it's symbolic, but then you'd have the Baptist and the Anabaptist traditions would say that it's more of a memorial. Do this in remembrance of me. And you have Mennonites and Brethren that might do foot washing, which would be a third ordinance. Difference between sacraments, probably the other one. The sacraments, these are sacred acts. They have salvific value. They would help to promote a person's position or salvation with and experience with God. To have that on the one side, to the other side would be more, it's just an ordinance or a command. Do this as I've commanded you in remembrance of me. So it's a command. It doesn't have any salvific value necessarily, other than it reminds us of what Jesus did. And we're to do that remembering. The remembrance is the most important. So you have the 7 sacraments, which would be in Catholic. Orthodox would embrace 7 sacraments. Anglicans say there's more than 7. But and that's the Church of England, really the Catholic Church of England. And so, but then you have the reformers, especially from John Calvin, Martin Luther, that really broke from the sacramental view, even though they maybe, especially Luther didn't want to do that, but he really dealt more into salvation by faith alone. Okay, so it wasn't by works, and it was kind of reaction to the sense of indulgences and trying to raise money for St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome that we all enjoy. So, does that answer your question? That's the idea of how we view death is similar. I wouldn't say there's really, it's not even shades of gray, it's hardly any gray in terms of how they view that.
Yes, thank you. And then to Dr. Jin, Ben, excuse me. I believe you said Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism are very similar, but obviously there's some differences between them. Can you contrast them? And then also for the other two doctors up there, could you also contrast the different sects of your religion? Because especially for the Islamic religion, because we were having a lot of that in the news lately, so with understanding comes peace, hopefully.
I didn't follow the whole question. Can you?
Let's try and stay focused on the death and dying piece.
Okay. Yeah, the death and dying.
Sects of Islam.
But can
Different
we?
sects of Islam.
Maybe we
can
talk individually.
Boy, that's a big topic. Okay, here's what happened briefly. There were no succession was there. After Prophet Muhammad died, there were 4 people very close to him. One was his friend, whose daughter he had married. Another was a lieutenant. And another was very rich person who controlled that. And one was his son-in-law. So after his death, what happened was he was coming back from the pilgrimage, and he stopped the caravan, and he made a comment. He said, if I'm your leader, Ali is your leader, that's his son-in-law. One hint. When he was very sick, he couldn't lead the prayers. He asked his friend and his father-in-law to lead the prayers. So now, the two conflicting things. What happened? The leading the prayer, he gave a hint that you should be the leader, or the one he said on the caravan. Now, just give you a little relationship. Father-in-law, his wife was there. His wife and father-in-law, one Umar, the second guy, and the other, they didn't like each other. Because this one guy wanted to marry his daughter, another guy married. So the enmity was there between them. So they did not, the 3 of them got together and made sure that his son-in-law doesn't become the chief. The father-in-law became the chief. Then next was this another guy who hated Ali, his son-in-law, to become the chief. The third one became the chief. By the way, except the first one, they were all murdered by another tribes. 4th time, when Ali, his son-in-law, became, the thing is, the Shia, his group was Shia people. Shia means the protectors of Ali, his son-in-law. So that way the division come. The Shia means just a protector. They were the one who take care of Ali. So his son fought with the Sunnis and died. His another son was poisoned. So all this big division between Shia and Sunni started. Then Shiites were just pushed back to the city of Medina. No political thing. Every time they tried to get up, they were killed. So the Sunnis took over. Now, out of 1.2, 1.45 billion Muslims we have, majority, in fact, only 200 or 300 million, that is 250 million are Shia, rest are all Sunnis. Then they have divisions among them. I can't go into too much detail. Somebody comes to power, they kill the other, like, okay, give you a simple example, what I mentioned, traditionalists and the people of reason. People of reason were really good. The traditionalists didn't like it. So how do they solve the problem? They kill the people. So it's still going on. It started after his death. It's still going on. They kill each other. You can see it.
I think we're beginning to see some people leave. And so I'd like to, I guess I'd love to, if we can, just to get you, Ben, to respond, Dr. Ben, to respond to the question of are there differences in the death traditions between the Tao and Confucian? And
Yes.
then if there are additional questions, perhaps you can talk to them outside.
Individually.
Yeah.
Yes, surely. I didn't say that Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism in China just the same. I just say provide the separate model for the rituals, but all these rituals just complement with each other. So, for example, the idea of retribution is provided by the Buddhism. So about the rebirth, etc. So the idea of like the people's unification with the nature provided by Taoism, and about some kind of deification of the soul of the dead. So provide a kind of ancestor worship for the Confucianism. So I would not say that they are same, but we can say that all three different religions provide something for the people to understand the death. But all this kind of different understanding just combine into a kind of comprehensive ritual system. So this provide a general and comprehensive ritual for the Chinese people. Thank you.
So will you join me in thanking the panel, and then I want you
Norma, can I end with a little joke? Is it okay?
only if Mary allows.
Very small. Okay.
Go for it.
This is a golf joke. Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, they were playing golf. And going to par 3, there's a water. So Moses, no problem, water, he parted the water. So he takes the shot, boom, in the water, never came out the ball. So Muhammad gets up, takes the shot on the green, over the green, in the rough. Gone again. Jesus gets up, takes the shot, bumps on the water, hits the tree, rolls into the hole. Well, Moses looked at Muhammad, he said, we know he always preferred his son.
I think that was a great way to end. So I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank especially Norma. She has made this so possible. I mean, really, she's given us all faith that this could happen. I'd like to remind you, we have the next in our series of panel discussions is going to be on January 26th. It will be at Drake. And that one, as most of you who have been involved in this are aware, we are doing a collaboration with the Calvin community, which is doing a series on practical issues of aging. The Drake series, the Comparison Project, is looking sort of at interfaith issues of aging and death. And Calvin is looking at some of the more practical ones. The first one on January 25th will be on healthy aging and brain wellness. Our next dialogue for the Comparison Project will be here on February 11th. But the last thing I do want to do, because I should have done this when I did my thank yous at first, is with the collaboration between the Comparison Project and Calvin. Calvin has made possible the videotaping and filming of this tonight, for which we are very grateful. So thank you, Kent. Thank you all. Hope we'll see you in January and then again in February.
And thanks again to Isles for the wonderful
yes,
hospitality tonight.
Many thanks to Isles.